So if you're looking to lease a car, or maybe currently you're already in a lease right now, this is the perfect video for you because I'm gonna show you step by step how to sell a car that you don't even own. And I know just hearing that sounds crazy, but once you're done with this video, you'll have a clear understanding of exactly what it takes and all the steps that need to be in place in order to make that happen for yourself. And who knows, your next lease may end up making you a few $1,000s. So let's not waste any time and go ahead and get started. So before we understand how to sell a car that we're leasing, we have to understand leasing itself. So when it comes to leasing, it starts off with an MSRP. That's the manufacturer suggested retail price. So that's the price they're gonna sell the car for. So that price determines everything moving forward when it comes to your lease. Like that's the starting point. Now, that starting point can be negotiated. That's a different video, but we're gonna assume it's $80,000 for the MSRP to begin with. Then we have the residual percentage. So that's gonna tell us when this car is brought back, when we're done with our lease, we're gonna assume it's a 36-month lease. It doesn't matter what the term is, but when we bring the car back, there's a percent of value that's retained. So in this example, we're gonna assume the car is gonna retain 65% of its value. And this number is set already ahead of time. So you'll see that different cars have different residual percentages, which means some cars are better leases than others, but 65% is gonna be our residual percentage. So we take that $80,000 and we multiply it times 65%. And what that gives us is the actual residual value. So this is the value of the car when we bring it back used. Hopefully it doesn't look like this. Hopefully you take care of it. But when we bring that used car back, the dealer already has an understanding of what the value of that car is going to be. So they're predicting in the future what the value is. And that's why that's gonna work for you in a scenario, and you'll see in a second. But they're predicting what the car's value is gonna be. So 65% of the $80,000 is $52,000. So when you bring that car back, they're gonna understand that car is gonna be worth $52,000. Now, at the same time, that means you can also buy the car for that residual value. So when you turn that car in, you understand that in your lease agreement, you can buy the car for the actual residual value. That's important. So remember, when you bring it back, it's worth $52,000, but that means you can also buy the car for $52,000 at the end of your lease. So now when we look at the difference between the MSRP, $80,000, and the actual residual value, which is $52,000, we're left with $28,000. That's the depreciation. That's how much the value is gonna drop of that car. So when you lease a car, you're paying for that depreciation. You're paying for that $28,000. So that $28,000 is gonna be spread out over a 3-month period, and that's what your payments are gonna be based off of. Yes, there'll be some additional fees and things like that included, but that $28,000 is the foundation. So when you look at it, like how does the lease work, you're literally just paying for the value of the car that's gonna be lost during the period of time that you have it. So when you bring it back, it's worth $52,000. When you took it off the lot, it's worth $80,000. So you're gonna have to pay for that $28,000 of depreciation over that 36-month period in this example. It could be 48, it could be 2 years, whatever, it doesn't matter, but 36 months, you're paying off that lease, okay? So you have just graduated and you have your bachelor's degree when it comes to understanding leasing now. So now what happens when your lease is up? So the first thing you need to do is look up the car's market value. So the market value is what is the car worth right now? Because remember, that residual value is just an estimate of what the dealer thinks the car is gonna be worth, but you, based on circumstances and things going on with the world and the economy, all affect pricing. So your market value is going to tell you what's the value of that car today, the day you look it up. Now there are different sites you can go to look up the market value of the car. So I'm just going to give you two, and I think these two are really solid. I think these are the only two you actually need. So the first one is actually the Kelley Blue Book Value. So you may have heard of that before. So just all you have to do is Google Kelley Blue Book Value. It'll pop up. And when you go to the site, all you have to do is you'll enter your VIN number, or you'll enter the license plate number, and then you'll have to answer certain questions like how many miles, the wear and tear, does it have leather seats, is there a moonroof? So little specific details they'll ask about the car, and then it'll pop out an actual value of the car, and that's gonna tell you what the market value of the car is currently. Now another option when it comes to looking up the value is also Edmunds. So I recommend running both because when you look at both, it'll give you a good gauge, right? It'll give you security. If one says it's worth 58, other one says it's worth 59, you know the value is going to be somewhere in that ballpark because, again, it's not an exact number, but you know if both of them have somewhere in the similar range, then the car is going to be worth somewhere in that range. And same thing with Edmunds. It works the same way. VIN number or your license plate number, couple questions. You'll have to enter your email on both of these because they'll email you the results. Obviously, they want your email for marketing purposes to sell you stuff in the future, but it is what it is. They're going to provide a service. You provide your email, and that's how you'll get your results for the value of your car currently right now. Okay, so now we go back to the residual value. So we already know the residual value for the car is $52,000. Okay, so let's say Edmunds and Kelly Blue Book came out with the exact same rate, and they say the car's worth $62,000. What that means is we have $10,000 of equity in our car. So just like you have equity in a house, you have a house you buy for $500,000, and now it grows to $600,000 in value. You have $100,000 in equity in that house. Same thing with your car. The car's value, according to the dealer, is $52,000 when you turn it in, but the market value is $62,000. So you have $10,000 in equity in that car. So now you can see how it's starting to look like, okay, I see how this can be profitable when it comes to turning in that lease or selling that car to somebody. All right, so now you know you have equity in the car. So that's the first step. So then you move on to the next step. Now you want to contact your leasing company. So when you contact your leasing company, there's some things you definitely want to ask them. For one, is early lease payoff an option? Because you technically don't have to wait till your lease is up. So let's say you have 9 months left on your lease and you decide, okay, I want to sell it. You look at the market value and you see the market value is higher than what the residual value is. You can actually sell it or pay it off early, but you're going to have to ask the leasing company, is that even an option? Because every leasing company has its own rules, but you want to check to make sure it's an option to pay it off early. If not, you're going to have to wait to the end of the term. Next question is third-party lease payoff an option? Can it be from a third party? Meaning, do you have to pay off the lease yourself, or can you get a third party to write a check to pay it off on your behalf? Then you have, what is the lease payoff amount for you? So if you were to pay off the lease, what's the amount that they need? It's going to be the residual value. And let's say you have 9 months, they're going to calculate the 9 months of payments that you would have to make, plus whatever fees they're incorporating with the whole payoff. So what is the lease payoff for you personally? Then what is the third party lease payoff amount? So if somebody else was to write a check to you, Mr. Leasing Company, is it the same amount as if I wrote a check? Typically it's not going to be, because realistically most dealers want the car back. So you'll probably get a better deal if you were to pay off the lease yourself personally versus them knowing there's a third party that's going to pay it off. And now that car could potentially be on someone else's lot, which is their competition. But those are the 4 questions you want to get answers to when it comes to your lease. So that's step 2. You call them and ask them each one of these questions and get clear on what the actual answer is. Next, you want to look at your selling options. So option number 1 is you can sell it to an individual. That's just the person. Someone on the street, you market it. A friend, neighbor, referral, it doesn't matter, but that's just an individual person that you can sell the car to. So that's one option for you. Next option is selling to a third-party dealer. So that's like another dealer that'll get involved, and they'll be the one writing the check to the leasing company, and they'll be the one actually taking the car. So that's another option for you. And option 3 would be selling to your dealer directly, the dealer that you got the car from, selling it back to them. So those are your 3 options when it comes to selling a car. So it could be to an individual person, it could be to a third-party dealer, or it could be back to your original dealer themselves. And then we have some really important considerations. So one is the potential sales tax on purchases. Because you have to understand, if you're selling it to an individual, that means you'll more than likely have to buy the car or buy the lease out and then sell it to them. So they'll write you a check, you'd write a check, and then you have to give the car to the person. So the person will be waiting in limbo for you to give them the car. But you may incur a sales tax. So you'd have to check, because depending on what state you're in or depending on your lease agreement would determine if you're going to have sales tax added to your actual purchase. So if so, you want to make sure you include that into the price, because you don't want to get hit with any unnecessary taxes if you don't have to. Next thing you want to consider is selling to individuals is the most profitable. So although it's a lot more work to sell to an individual because you have to find someone, it's going to be hands down the most profitable because you control the price. So with more legwork comes more opportunity to make more money. So you just have to understand, it's going to be harder to sell to an individual, but you'll make more money selling to an individual. Next is get a contract from the third-party dealers. So when you're dealing with a third-party dealer, they're going to write the check directly to your current dealer, and you're going to be the one waiting in limbo because they're going to cut the check for the payoff. Then they're going to give you a check for the equity, but they're not going to give you your check for the equity until they have the car in their name, right? So that's important to know. Yes, it's great to be trusting of people, but this is probably not the circumstances where you want to do that. So you want to have a contract that states they're going to pay you the equity amount once the deal settles and they get the car in their name. So you don't want to just be hoping and wishing that they're going to cut you your check once they receive the car, because they're going to buy the car directly from the leasing company. They're going to buy it out, and then they're going to cut you a check for whatever the equity is. And then we have selling to the original dealer. This is the most convenient. So you just go in there and you tell them you want to buy the car. They know how much the car is worth. They know the residual value. So instead of all these extra transactions, they do it all in one. Because technically, no matter what, you're buying the car and then you're selling it to them. But they kind of just do it all together. They know you're buying the car for a certain amount. They're buying it from you for a certain amount. So literally, they just cut you the check. So it's the easiest process. Probably won't be the most profitable, but it's the easiest process to go back to the dealer and say, hey, my lease is up. I want to sell it to you guys. And it's like, great, we'll buy it. This is the residual value. This is the market value. Your equity is $10,000, but you know, they're going to work a deal out with you. And then you probably leave with, I don't know, a $7,000 check or something like that. But that's how the process is. So when it comes down to it, just understand you're buying the car for the residual value and you're selling it for the market value or somewhere in the range of the market value. So that's how you take a lease and actually sell it to someone, third party, or back to the dealer. So I hope this video helped. Give it a thumbs up. Put a happy face in the comment section if the video helped you at all in any kind of way. That way YouTube knows this was a decent video and they'll send it out to more people, because again, I think more people need to understand how this works, because if you take your car back and you don't know how this works, the dealer's the one that's just going to pocket the equity. They're not going to ever go out their way to tell you, hey, you know you have equity in this car. They're going to pocket the equity, and that happens more times than you could think of. So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next one.